So today is Erev Rosh Chodesh Kislev, and I want to bring a little bit about Rosh Chodesh Kislev and hear from you about your time in New York. But the Rosh Chodesh Kislev, Tafshin Lamed Ches, 1977, is the first time that Rebbe came back to 770, came out to 770, to the downstairs with the Hasidim after his serious heart attack on Shmini Atzeres. The Rebbe had 2 heart attacks that night, that's what I'm told. The first one was considered actually small in comparison to the one later in the middle of the night. This was during Hakofas, and we dance Shmini Atzeres as well. And I was there. And in the middle, they all of a sudden told us all to go out of shul, 770. And we understood because the Rebbe wasn't feeling well. And we all did that, and they broke some windows to bring more air in because it was very stuffy. There were many, many people. And it was a very, very serious situation. No one knew anything really outside most of the Hasidim, except for the secretaries and a few of the other people. And finally some doctors came from here, from there. I think Dr. Weiss came at some point from Chicago, and a few local doctors. And miraculously, that's what they say, it was, he survived a very, very serious heart attack in the middle of the night, very serious. And the Rebbe wanted to talk to the Hasidim Moitzoi Simchas Torah, because he would normally fabreik Simchas Torah for hours. The doctor said, you can't come down to talk, you're not well, it's a crisis. So they agreed that he could talk maybe from his bed on a mic, for 10 minutes. He ended up talking for 25 minutes, and there's stories about that. So, but the entire time till Rosh Chodesh Kislev, he didn't go out of his room, as far as I remember. I stand corrected. I don't think he came to Fabrein Rosh Chodesh Kislev. The first Fabrein after his heart attack was Yutes Kislev. It was 19 days from tomorrow. But he went home. That was the first time that he left 770 and went home. Of course, his wife, visited him every day and was there, all that. So Hasidim, since that time, including the last 30 years after his passing, still celebrate that day as a commemoration of a miracle. I don't know if a miracle that he survived, and also that although there was a Helen, as we've been learning in Chassidus, that when something happens that's perceived as no good and difficult in our lives, it's a Helam of Elikus, it's a concealment of godliness, from an individual not feeling well till the most, God forbid, catastrophic issues. And when something like that happens, you could take it in a negative way, or you could take it in a positive way and see it as a springboard for something greater. In other words, the Helam was necessary for a Gili, for revelation. And we have that with the flood of Noach, with Alter Rebbe brings in Torah Or, the famous concept. It's also brought in Sfarim before, but he puts it in nice words, the Alter Rebbe, that the world needed Tahara. And the Tahara was such that it was a flood, because there was a lot of stupidity and silliness and evil in the world. So it required a major Tahara, a flood. The purpose of the Tahara was there should be a dwelling place for Hashem. This is the basic concept. So the same over here. Hasidim believe that when a tzaddik, a rebbe, goes through a personal crisis, it's not just a personal crisis like any other person, which of course it's that also, but it has its cosmic idea associated with it, because a tzaddik is someone that has to do with the cosmic energies of the world as Hashem filters them into the world. So the simcha by Hasidim on Rosh Chodesh Kislev was so powerful. I remember that, we were singing the song, the Rebbe is gesund, the Rebbe is gesund, the Rebbe is gesund. Mashiach soll schon kommen, the Rebbe is well, the Rebbe is well, the Rebbe is well. Mashiach should come. It's not just a Chabad thing, which happened to Lubavitcher Rebbe and Chabad Hasidim, but there's, from on high, it was demonstrated that his mission hasn't finished. And if you pay attention carefully, from Tafshin Lamed Ches till Tafshin Nun Beis is 14 years or so, which equals the Yad HaChazaka, the Yad, the 14, right? A Yad HaChazaka, a mighty hand. And Chabad really exploded as far as all initiatives from, you could say from in those 14 years. After his passing, it's a new era, it's a new realm, it's so the fact that there's now 6,000 plus shluchim and people that come to a Kinus, which Isser was at, and before, in the 80s, when I was there was only 75 people. It's two separate ideas. The internet opened up and supporters got involved. And after the Rebbe's passing, it exploded with numbers. But from 1978, 77, 78 till 1992, till he had a stroke, there were the initiatives that were put into place. So, for example, the Kinus started in 1983, and the Rebbe said, because there was a Kinus of his shluchim that he sent to Eretz Yisrael in 76, 77, 78, and the Rebbe said they had a Kinus, a gathering, which is a good thing. Do it here in America. So they did it in America. Rabbi Krinsky did it in America. Then in 1987, Rabbi Kotlarski, who was the vice chairman at the time but he was involved, of the Americas, he decided, let's see if we can do it for all of the world, because bring everyone together. And the Rebbe gave a bracha, and it became the Kinus Ha'olami, it's called, the international gathering. But it still was 75, 100 people, 100, after Gimel Tammuz, it takes off exponentially. And I'm not going to go into now, a sociological discussion of why. I have plenty to say about this, and I've written a little bit about it, but that's not for now. Going back to the Rosh Chodesh Kislev, the Rosh Chodesh Kislev is, in a way, the day that this 14 years begins. The Yad HaChazaka, the 14 years where the Rebbe was most powerful in initiating programs and initiatives, were these 14 years. For example, and when I say programs, I mean for all of the world. So, for example, I remember, I think it was in 1983, at one of the either Yud Shvat or Yud Kislev, or Yud Nisan, one of the more public Fabrengens, where it was televised. He spoke about Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, the 7 universal laws. Right? That was in 1983, I think. Another time I remember he spoke about oil, I believe. This is my recollection, like oil reserves and how important, global issues. Another time he spoke about no family planning. These were things that, he didn't highlight them until the 80s. So what we see is that the kind of the main programs and initiatives that he made for the world, not just for Chabadniks. That he did in the 50s and 60s, but for the world really took off in the late 70s into the 80s. So that is why, I believe, why Rosh Chodesh Kislev is relevant today, not just 30 years, 30, what are you talking about, 30, 50 years ago, it was 1978, it's 2026, it's 48 years ago. It's relevant because it symbolizes the day when the Helem was greatest, the concealment was greatest, and the springboard and positivity that came from it is the 14 years that followed, which were the strongest of his initiatives. Now, talking about the Kinus, Isser, would you like to share a few thoughts about your experiences there?
So this is the first time that I went to the Kinus, and very interesting. First of all, to be in Crown Heights, I had been to Crown Heights a few times, but it was very much like alive. I had the feeling it was like Manhattan in terms of just being alive. Late at night, all the stores were open. The streets were packed with people. People running into other people and greeting each other. I myself, I ran into people on the street that I knew, so that was in general. 770.
Wait. Where did you stay? Where was your host?
So I signed up for this package, and the room that I was supposed to have was taken by somebody else who was not even part of the program. So I ended up staying, Rabbi Azizov was staying with a friend that he knows, and there was a bed available for me there. So he contacted his host, and they let me stay. But the room that I paid for was not available. So that's where I stayed, and it was on Crown Street, next to the Aguda.
Oh, okay.
Which was very nice because I davened Shabbos there on Shabbos because I could not. I need my space. I cannot be crammed in. I am not the sardine, and I had been to 770 for Kabbalah Shabbos, and that itself was just some crazy people pushing to get through, but there's no place to go. I mean, it's literally like jostling constantly. So I davened at the Aguda on Shabbos morning.
Yes, so go back to your point.
Which was my point? You asked me where I stayed, so I stayed.
No. I know, but I interrupted you with that. You were going to say
right. So 770 was just this mass of humanity, and people were davening outside. People were davening by yechidus. It was quite interesting. I sat next to a guy, a Moroccan who was singing Kabbalah Shabbos in Moroccan Nusach, and then there was like a group of other guys in the street who were singing, and then he started joining them singing. I call it, what did I say? It was ordered chaos. Ordered chaos. Just kind of people doing their own things, but all part of this thing, this phenomenon within 770. Okay, so that was Kabbalah Shabbos, and then we went to Rabbi
Majeski, yeah.
Majeski's for
Shabbos lunch.
Dinner. No, we went for dinner, for Shabbos dinner, Friday night.
Sorry.
And if I did not go for anything, only to meet Rabbi Majeski and have suitably him, it would have been worth it. I had such an amazing time, such an amazing family. Not heavy at all, but obviously very spiritual. it was a chilled environment, but with a kedusha of Shabbos, and he invited people to say Divrei Torah if they wanted to. I shared something. He said something that triggered an idea in me, and I went off on that. And he was singing Nigunim to himself. I know that in Chabad they don't necessarily sing Shabbos Miros at the Sudos, except for very limited things. But he was, humming Nigunim to himself while things were going on, and it was almost like a kiruv experience, taking me back to my days when I wasn't religious, and I wow, this is Shabbos. Like, even now, all these years later, to see a family experiencing Shabbos like that was so beautiful. Mamash, it was really, really, really beautiful. And I went back for Havdalah, and I told her Evanson, I said, I'm so enamored of your family and what you've created in this home. I thought it was very, very beautiful. Okay, so that was Friday night.
One second, but you didn't dialogue with him on issues of Hasidim and Rebbe, things like that, things that we've discussed.
No, we did not.
Well,
no,
you see, if you would have told me that you're going to him, I would have told you he's a very good person for that.
Okay, so the Rabbi Azizov told me that he's a big Meshachist.
Yeah, but he's a big Meshachist, but he's a cupmensch.
Right.
He's a very Hasidic person, and he knows a lot of Torah and a lot of Hasidus.
Right.
His Meshichism, that's his cup of tea, whatever.
Right. So Rabbi Azizov gave me a book that he had written. I forget what it's called in English because he gave me the translated version in Hebrew. So I was reading it on the plane about the relationship Chassid and Rebbe. But we didn't really have a discussion about Chassid Rebbe relationships. It was Shabbos. Mamash, it was just
okay. But by the way, if you ever get back, if you ever end up again by him, I urge you to discuss that. I think you would really have an interesting conversation. That's all.
Okay. So that was Friday night. I did not go to Farbrang. That's not true. I stopped in a few minutes. I stopped in at 770, and basically I was tagging along with Rabbi Azizov, who's the Shliach in Mishkafayim, and he was sitting at a table, and I recognized some of the Bachrim who came from Eretz Israel. They come to us. One of the Balkari, that they're of Kfutza, so they're in conference for a year. Right. And so they were all drunk and singing and having a good time, but there wasn't any deep conversation going on at the Farbrengen. And I went to sleep. Shabbos morning, I woke up early, went to mikveh, and then went to 770 to say Tehillim. And already people were spreading out their books and saying, "This bench is our bench." And I said, "Don't worry, I'm not staying for davening. I'm just saying my Tehillim and then I'm going." It turns out I was sitting in Rabbi Majewski's seat, and I kept it warm. For him. But I did not intend on staying there because I can't concentrate in tefillah when I'm physically uncomfortable.
Yeah, okay.
So then I went to the Agudah, and I thought maybe they'd have a normal davening time. I don't know why I thought that. There were just two guys learning. I asked them what time Shacharis was, and they said 10:30 or 11, depending. So I said, okay. So I sat and I learned. I did my chitas and some other learning. Went back, took a nap, and then went back at 10:30. And by 10 to 11, we had Shacharis. And that was very nice and normal davening. The rabbi gave a very nice drasha based on a sikha of the Rebbe's. Interestingly, there was an older crowd. There were a few young guys, but mostly an older crowd, all speaking Yiddish. I mean, they all spoke English, but they were speaking to each other in Yiddish. No pins, no flags, and a nice kiddush afterwards. That was it. People asked me where I was on shlichus. I I'm not a shliach from the Rebbe, but my shlichus is taking care of people in Beit Shemesh. So, and then for Suda, we went to a young couple that the parents are in Beit Shemesh, and that's when I started a conversation about the Yechi, and that didn't go over well. It didn't go over well at all.
I assume if Rabbi Azizov is his mashpias Rabbi Mayeski, he must be a mashichist too. No.
I think he keeps it close to the vest.
Right.
He says yes, but he keeps it close to the vest. He's not a missionary.
Right.
And that's how I distinguish us. There are people who are missionaries.
Right.
And that's where my discomfort begins. You can believe what you want to believe, and you can. That's
okay.
Fine.
But let's move on because time is moving. Let's get to the point of the Kinus of the banquet. You went to the banquet.
The banquet itself was mamash beautiful. It was mamash beautiful, and it only reinforced what I had already known, which is shluchim are moiser nefesh for every Jew, no matter who, no matter where, with a commitment ad beli die. These people live under such extremely difficult situations, and I have just the greatest respect for them because they are living their belief.
Okay, so here's my question, direct question to you. Would you do this again?
Yeah.
Would you do this again?
Would I go to the Kinus again? No, I think I checked it off my bucket list. The next thing would be Uman, but I'd have to build myself up for that.
Okay, and so what's the bottom line you walked away with? What's the bottom line? Anything new, or just reinforced your previous ideas?
I don't think that I got anything new. I think that it reinforced a lot of what I already knew and already believed, both on the positive and the negative. I think it was really more reinforcement for existing beliefs and ideas that I have, but I didn't come away with anything new.
Okay, so it wasn't a life-shattering experience. It wasn't a paradigm shift. It wasn't a paradigm shift.
Life.
What?
No, it didn't change my life, but I'm glad I went, and it was a good experience.
Okay, Yoni, tell me about your time in New York, and you went to the Ohel. You can't talk?
Yeah, so I'll tell you. Yeah, I can talk. I'm just driving. I'll tell you, every time I go to the Ohel, I always have, like you were talking about, earth-shattering, whatever. I always have that earth-shattering or new thing. That's why I called you, because by chance I spoke to my cousin the night before I was going to the Ohel. I didn't even tell him I was going to the Ohel. And I said to Yechiel, we were talking, and then we were talking about my father a lot, and I was staying in the 5 towns, and he lives far away 5 towns. He lives right there. So I said to him, he said to me, do you know how your father got into Chabad? I said, I have no idea, because my father never told me. He says, I'll tell you the story how your father got into Chabad, and that's how I told you how he schlepped my father to Simchas Torah. My father moved from Williamsburg to Borough Park, and he married. My parents got married. They knew Borough Park. My mother was from Lakewood, and my father was from Williamsburg. And Gil and his parents, they're from Borough Park. So he says, okay, I'll take you to a good place. My father wanted to lay to a big place. They schlepped him to Rabbi Simpson. So I had no idea my father had any connection to Rabbi Simpson, just like I didn't know my father had a big connection, that his Rebbe was from Kozanovsky. I didn't know this until about 5-6 years ago, once my father became ill. But then when I went to the Ohel, I never realized that they were buried next to each other, literally next door to each other. And when I went to say a kapitel tehillim of Kozanovsky, because my wife and my kids were in the Ohel at the time, I looked up and I saw Rav Simpson. I'm like, this is Min Hashamayim. I only found this out the night before, literally 12 hours before. And I was able to say to him by Rabbi Simpson, and Rabbi Kazanowski, and of course by the Rebbes. It was just an unbelievable feeling. And I'll tell you something interesting. I was looking for your sefer, the sefer we're learning now. I couldn't find it in Israel. I don't know why. I went to all over it. I could not find it. And my last resort was like I was going to go to Geula to go to Heichel Menachem. I figured they have it. But there's no parking. You can't get parking in Geula. It's like impossible. It's like parking in Manhattan. So when I was at the Ohel, I saw a bunch of books. So I go over to the guy. There's like a shliach there that's selling books, and he's always there. But I said, I have this book. He goes, yeah, I have this book. So my daughter saw me go buy a book, buy the sefer, and then my sister says to me, my daughter says to me, do they have the sefer Shar B'Tachon? So I said, okay, let's go ask the guy. I go to the guy. The guy says, yeah. He buys it. My daughter buys it. She's 15 years old. She buys it for my wife because my wife loves the sefer and wanted the sefer. So
no more. By the way, Isser, what about the wedding? How was the wedding? Chaim Zeb's wedding.
The wedding was very nice. It was very nice. Rabbi Fran was the Masada Kedushin, and it was big by my standards. It was very big, quite well attended. Yoni's back on.
Yoni,
I also, I get the lessons in Chatzu. I bought lessons in my Marim.
Oh. So anyway,
where did I get cut off?
You got cut off that you found the sefer that we're using lessons in Echotzu at the Ohel over there.
Right. So my daughter saw me buying the sefer. So my daughter asked the guy. She goes, "Do you happen to have Shar B'Tachon?" He says, "We have one." He goes, he said to her, he goes, "Wow." He says, "We really have one last copy. We actually do have it." So so my daughter bought it for my wife because my wife loves the sefer. We don't have it. And she bought it for a surprise, like a surprise gift.
Okay, so first of all, I think I told you, Rabbi Simpson was the Rav in the shul. I grew up with Rabbi Simpson in this shul in Borough Park that your father came to from 1970 to 78 or so. Yeah. And I had my bar mitzvah in the shul, so I know the person, and I don't remember.
No, for sure he was there. He was there until 19. I was born in 75, so he was there probably until 70, probably till 79 or 80.
Anyway, good to hear your wonderful Ohel story, which is always nice to hear. Going back to the wedding, was there a good attendance of Chabadniks?
There were, you know what? By appearance, I would say there was a scattering of people, not a large contingent.
So his son is Chabad or not?
No, his son is Ner Yisrael, clean shaven. He's a Ner Yisrael boy, and the Bachrim were, Ner Yisrael Bachrim.
Oh, so what? I mean, do you know? I mean,
and I think that he came. Chaim Zev himself came to Chabad relatively later in life. So there was Rabbi Goldberger came, but he's not Chabad. So there were a few guys, but it wasn't a huge contingency of Chabadniks.
Right. All the Shabbat brachas were in Baltimore, I assume?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Callis family is also from Baltimore, so I assume that they are.
Okay, well, that's very nice. We should wish him Mazel Tov and Mazel and Bracha. Are they living in Baltimore, his son?
I believe that the plan is to move to Eretz Yisrael.
Very nice.
But I don't think that's going to happen immediately.
Right. Any last word you want to say about the Kinus or Isser, or that's it?
No, that's it. I think the encapsulation was, like I said, I'm glad I went, and it kind of reinforced what my machshavas were beforehand. I think that the shluchim do amazing things and great work for Klal Yisrael.
Yeah. Which table?
Force to be reckoned with.
Which table were you sitting at? Who else was at your table?
I was sitting. So again, I signed up in this group, and they were all Israelis scattered around. Of different, let's say, none of them. I was the only one in a hat, you know, they were. I don't even know from where different places, Nes Zion and things like that they were from. Interesting people, as Chabad can attract interesting people. We took we took a van there, and one of the guys talked to himself the whole time he was in the van, and another guy, before the van was opened up, was trying to break into the van. So as these things go, you know.
Big time, huh?
So the food was good. The food was good.
Had another guy who looked like he was older, in his 70s, wearing a suit with a baseball hat and a Mashiach pin, you know, making brachas for Mashiach. And it was an interesting crowd.
How was the food?
Food was excellent. Food was fantastic. And the level of production, the videos,
It's unbelievable.
The music,
Unbelievable.
Much highest quality.
Yeah.
Very, very well done.
Which of the features touched you the most? Because they had 3, 4, 5, 6 different types of features. You know, the little boy, his legs were amputated. You know, which of those things touched you most?
I'm trying to remember. I think it was the rabbi from Jamaica.
Oh yeah.
Withstood the hurricane.
Yeah.
That normal people would get the heck out. But they're right. There's a hurricane coming. You leave. We have cousins who used to live in Miami, and you know, she told me she was so tired of evacuating every time there was a hurricane. They were also Lubavitchers, but normal people would leave, and they were like, "No, we have a job to do here, and people need us here, and we're staying here, and we're going to open up, and we're going to feed people, and we're going to help people." And that to me was just an exemplary of the Mesiras Nefesh that the Shluchim have.
Yes.
And they didn't even consider, like, it would be abnormal for them to leave.
Okay, we'll continue next Monday. Hashem, have a great Chodesh, and thanks for the update. Really appreciate it. Zaygas on good Shabbos.
Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov. Take care. Bye-bye.